Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. We'll wait maybe 1 minute and allow a few more people to enter. Varun's playing some lovely music in the meanwhile. All right, let's get started. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining the first masterclass of 2025 with Bachpan Manao. Bachpan Manao is an initiative of Wake Step Foundation, which celebrates abundance, growth, and play in a child's first 8 years. Bachpan Manao focuses on encouraging parents and teachers to recognize that learning in the early childhood years of 0 to 8 happen best through joy and play. Play is the ultimate cheat code to create an optimum childhood experience. So, to kickstart the first masterclass of 2025, we have the Opentree Foundation taking a session on assessing through play. The Opentree Foundation is a 20-year-old not-for-profit based out of Mumbai. They are currently impacting 1 lakh children in Maharashtra through their life skills play programs under their flagship project, Toy Bank Development Through Play. In the last 8 years, Toy Bank has set up play centers in more than 500 government schools and community centers in Maharashtra, where children get access to contextually relevant, developmentally appropriate play materials and activities. They also build capacities of teachers and coordinators in the play centers towards using these play materials, as well as adopting a play-centric approach. Their belief is that play is transformative. When mindfully designed, it has the potential to impact cognitive development, socio-emotional skills, mental well-being, and to build key life skills, all of which are essential for children to thrive and turn into well-rounded adults. This session is an effort towards sharing knowledge, equipping participants with a lens of play with which to reflect on their assessment design, philosophy, and practices. Encouraging all of you to use play as a tool for more humane, child-centric assessments. I'm going to hand over to Aditya and Tripti from Toy Bank Opentree Foundation to host you and share with you their thoughts on assessing through play. Over to you guys.
Thank you so much, Hita. Hi, everyone. It's lovely to see all of you here at this masterclass today. I am Trupti. This is my colleague, Aditya. And we're very excited to be here. Lovely introduction, Hita. Thank you. So, really, like Hita said, for the last 20 years, we have been working towards bringing play and play-based practices to just children's learning environments, communities, and just really advocating for more teachers and educators to make play a part of children's lives. A few years ago, we thought of assessing our programs and taking a break from the usual traditional impact assessment format because our programs are play-centric. So that got us thinking that a play-centric program should be assessed through play. And that's really where our journey began. But that the moment you talk about assessing play, you find yourself at a contradiction of sorts. We've managed to build out assessments for play while still remaining rooted to the essence of play and play principles. And through this process, it got us thinking that play is, while we use play to assess our play programs, but play as a tool can be wonderful for assessing a lot more practically a whole lot of different kinds of knowledge, mindset, and skills. We've been working on this play-based assessment framework, and we feel like we're now in a place to be able to talk about it with all of you, in the hope that this masterclass inspires you to find more play in your classrooms, in your teaching learning practices, in your assessments. So, should we get started? Okay, over to you, Aditya.
All right, so trying to share my screen here. It's loading, but let's just give it some time, maybe. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Let me try sharing my screen.
Okay, sorry, just give us a moment.
Yes, we're just. We should have a screen in there.
Yes, there you go. Okay, awesome.
All right.
All right, so it only makes sense for us to start with some play. So we have a little game for everyone here. The game is for you to take 30 seconds and find as many objects as you can around you on your tables, in your bags. Don't run around too much, just around you with as many different shapes as possible. The object should fit in your hand, and at the end of the 30 seconds, you can just show us the object and name the shape that you have. So your 30 seconds start now.
All right. As many objects as you can find, as many different shapes, objects need to fit in your hand.
Yes.
And you need to be back in front of your computer screen by 30 seconds. Go, we have another 15 seconds. And last 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Let's see what we've all come back with. Anyone who wants to quickly share, we can have about 5 people share what they found. It would be nice to see some videos on as well. Very quickly, what were y'all? Kya mila? Kya dhunda? What did you find? Okay, great. We have Geeta sharing.
Yes.
Uh,
Okay, there you go. Geeta, we've asked to unmute. So if you could unmute yourself. Thank you.
I found an adhesive tape.
Okay.
Which is circular in color, and then I have my watch. Tap across the triangle. This one, and then I have my chapstick, which is cylindrical.
Okay.
And I have my earrings, which are bell-shaped, and then I found my a piece of cloth that cleans my glasses. So that's it.
Nice. Did you know we were going to do this? Because that's a lot of shapes and objects.
So I have a lot of things around me. So
great.
Great.
Thank you so much, Geeta.
Okay.
Who's next?
You can just raise your hand so we see your name pop up.
Yeah.
Okay, Arpita.
Arpita, we've asked you to unmute. If you can unmute yourself, please. Okay.
So I'm having this copy right now in front of me. It's of a square shape, and again a small diary, which is a little bit smaller in shape, but it's all in same shapes. And again one more copy, which is in a rectangular pattern, and pens I'm having right now with me. So
okay,
quite a bit of cylindrical in shape, particularly.
Great.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have Anna who commented.
Anna comments saying she has chocolate that's cube shaped, scrunchie, which is an ellipse, bottle cap, which is cylindrical. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you.
Great. Anyone else? We can probably take one more person sharing what they found.
Yes. If you could just raise your hand with the raise hand function, I think your name will pop right up.
Yes. Okay, we have someone talking. Okay, that's Mukesh. Mukesh, do you want to share? Hi.
Yeah, that is a dongle, and it's the shape of the rectangle. This black color and fit in my hand.
Anything else?
Okay, thank you, Mukesh. All right, so that was cool. Okay, we have a few more comments. Okay, Arpita, your glasses are a different shape too. Okay,
Okay, we have people are building on other people's responses. Your
Amazing.
glasses are different shape. There's some Rubik cube. There's a calendar that's triangular. There's a cylindrical pen cap. Fantastic.
Wow, triangular calendar sounds interesting.
Mm.
Okay, all right. Um, Great. So now that we've played a little, let's reflect on it. I will have everyone raise their hands. If your camera's on, you can raise your hands physically, or otherwise you can just use the raise hand function. So raise your hands if you found yourself during the game feeling joyful. I felt joyful. It was quite fun. Okay. Yes, so you can see people raising their hands. Amazing. Okay. If you found yourself exploring, how many of you found yourself okay? Sunita's raising her hand. Geeta, yes.
Lot of people.
Lots of people. Amazing. Lots of virtual hand raises as well. Okay, amazing. How many of you found yourself using your knowledge? Oh, all the shapes living in my brain coming out and
names of
making
objects.
themselves.
Yeah. I know
yeah.
what this object is called.
Yes, great, amazing. Thank you. And how many of you found yourselves thinking independently, sorry. Did you rush to your friend or whoever sitting next to you? Hey, like, tell me what the shape is. Or did you think by yourself? Okay, great. Everyone. Oh, wow. Amazing. Thank you so much. All right. So that's essentially what happens when you play, right? You feel all of these things and you do all of these things. All right, now let's take a moment and think about how we feel when we do assessment. So think about the times when you've had an exam, a viva, maybe you had to present something, maybe it's a review of some sorts. All of these are assessments, right? How do they make you feel? Stressed, fear, okay?
We can
Great.
quickly put down our responses like some of you are doing in the comments.
Anxious, under pressure, nervous, super stressed. Being creative. Okay, very interesting. Nervous.
You can also think about students. If you work with students, how do they feel when they're going through an assessment?
Time-bound, competitive. Very interesting.
Judged, afraid of talking.
Judged, afraid of failing, fear of getting it right. Wow. Okay. Yes. Right. So quite a bit, quite contrasting, excited and competitive. Interesting.
Aditya, it seems to me like play makes us all feel similar things. Also, assessments make us feel similar things,
They
right?
do. They do. Right. Cool. Okay, we just have things coming in. So I guess I think that's enough adjectives for now. We can move to the next bit. So now we have a little poll for you. The game that we just played in the beginning, do you think it was an assessment or was it play? So you have a poll popping up on your screens. You can just answer there and we can
really think about when you played the game. Did you think it was play or did you think it was an assessment? Not if it could be an assessment. Was it play? Was it an assessment? Great.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Okay. Okay, the results are leaning towards play. More and more people thinking it's play. We have 70% people saying it was play.
There looks like there are a few people thinking it was play. Was it an assessment? Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Great. Okay, I think we can end the poll now, and we have 69% saying it was play and 31% people saying it was an assessment. Great. Okay, cool. Yeah.
All right.
All right. So what yeah.
Sorry,
we just
there's a bit of a technical thing. I'm just going to start sharing again. I think my screen share is frozen.
Sorry about that. Can you? Right. So let's just wait for Trupti's screen to come. Okay. Okay.
All right, go back.
All right. So, sorry about that. Okay. Yes. Right. So, play makes us feel a lot of things, and we can see a lot of things happening in play. We have a little video for you. I think that would quite summarize quite well the contrast between assessments and play. Let's just watch it for a bit. Right. So what we saw here was just kids left in a room with some paper and what they did, right? So you could really see them doing a lot of things, and that really sums up what play actually is, right? Play is familiar. Children are familiar to play. It's innate to them and it comes very naturally, right? So you could see them choosing to play as soon as they were left alone. It's iterative. You could see kids doing it's not stopping at one thing, just constantly doing new and new things and constantly evolving, experimenting with what they're doing. It's open-ended. No two children were doing the same thing. There was room for choice. There was room for children to take their own decisions, to think critically.
And there was no fixed set of instructions. Nobody
Right.
told them what to do. They just did what they thought they wanted to do.
It was empowering, right? Like children had the room to decide, to make decisions, to,
Yes.
do whatever they want. They don't really get so much space to do that outside of play. It was explorative. You could see children making connections between things they knew and things they could depict with paper that they had. So they were making connections between the knowledge they already have and trying to figure out how they could use it.
And just really improvising on the spot. Hey,
Right.
Can I get under this table to make a house?
Yeah.
Can I turn this table into a goalpost?
It's flexible, right? Like it was just paper and all of the children seem to use it in a different way. So play materials or play things are quite flexible. It was interactive. You could see kids coming together, improvising on things that each of them have made, playing collectively, or playing independently as well. So play can be very interactive. So all of these things is what we think makes play a suitable tool for assessing things, for assessments. And that's what we have tried to bring into our assessments. So again, now that we've looked at play and what it does to kids and what kind of things it represents, we have I have pictures of a few play materials, and we're just going to try and think, what can you assess with this? What do you think, Trupti? What can you assess with this doll?
Lots of things. I mean, I could use the doll in a pretend play situation to check children's vocabulary, to check if children are able to, respond, make up a dialogue. I could use the doll to, assess a child's social-emotional skills. How are they able to talk about feelings? I could, also just use the doll for something as simple as parts of the body. Can you show me the doll's nose? Can you show me the doll's eyes?
Perfect.
And that's going back to the iterative, flexible, open-endedness of it, right?
Right.
As we are having this dialogue and, just coming up with ideas, feel free to put your thoughts down in comments if anything jumps out at you. Yes.
Yes, for teaching purpose.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's look at the next play material on it. How would you use this, Aditya?
Oh, well, somebody's saying colors. Yes, we can use
Read
blocks.
aloud. Loving that.
Yeah, amazing. I think blocks what can I use blocks for? For maybe to assess spatial awareness, maybe to assess shapes again, like we did. I can see lots of shapes there, colors, forms. I don't know. Even again, I can't think of many
That's
things.
the designer in you thinking forms and colors and shapes.
Maybe.
I think also a lot of cognitive processes, right? Like sequencing, pattern recognition,
Right.
comparing and sorting. Yeah, all of those things that we turn into lessons and activities in early grades classrooms. I can see listening activities. I can see
3D shapes.
Skills like patience and structure.
Yeah.
Great to see.
Arithmetic. Amazing.
Let's
Pre-numerical skills, bigger, smaller sizes. Okay, we have one more. That's hopscotch. What do you think you can assess with hopscotch? I think if you play hopscotch with a lot of people, taking turns and all of that, patience could be one thing. Numbers, I can see numbers over there. Numbers can be something.
Resilience is a big one, right?
You can.
Is a child giving up the instant their tile doesn't land in the
Right.
number? Also
Right.
directions. I'm jumping one step to the left. I'm jumping 2 steps forward. I'm going backwards.
Gross motor skills, learning with others, spatial awareness. Amazing. Great. So I think everyone here knows leadership. Amazing. Skip counting. Yes. Great.
Balance, of course. So I think we're already arriving, we're already beginning to think in the direction of play for assessment, which is great.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. So from here, now that we've spoken about what play looks like, we've spoken about what can be assessed through play, and that's really a lot. This is, I think, going back to the drawing board. I think these are a few basic principles that all of us would know in terms of where does a good assessment start. Like traditional assessments, like any assessment really, even with play, there needs to be a defined purpose of what do we want to assess. So once you've identified, it could be a skill, it could be a behavior, it could be knowledge, it could be a concept, it could be a mindset. Identifying what you want to assess, breaking that skill down into really measurable, observable indicators. And we'll show you an example of what this looked like in our play-based assessment tool. Obviously, different students might be at different stages or levels of how they're able to show that skill or that indicator. And you may or may not, depending on why you're assessing, need a rubric. This is, I'm sure all of you are very, very familiar with this. So I'm going to move ahead. In the context of our play programs or the assessment tool that we built out, our context was to assess the impact of play, regular play on children's life skills. The two competencies that we had picked were critical thinking and students' communication. For critical thinking, we broke it down into age-appropriate, developmentally appropriate competencies. So what does a particular critical thinking skill look like at grade 1 versus grade 2 versus grade 8 and so on? Each of those skills has, for the purpose of assessment and measurement, been broken down into measurable indicators. So if I'm saying problem solving, am I looking at a child's ability to identify a problem, the ability to articulate the problem, the ability to choose from given solutions, the ability to come up with the solutions? And then, of course, the rubric, because we had designed this as a student level assessment, having a rubric in place. And what's interesting is that we were very, very aligned on not judging the child, but judging the ability, the skill. So not judging really, but measuring to what extent is the child able to show this particular skill. So if you notice, our rubric doesn't speak in the parlance of unsatisfactory. It's child friendly. It's talking about the competency at hand. We will show you an example with the activity of how this was done. But if I'm sure a lot of you have questions about how this plays out, how this is actually implemented. So the standard process of assessment that we used with this tool is that students are given independent play time to do the activities that have been created for the assessment. When they're doing the assessments, the facilitators or the assessors are really not meddling with their play at all. Students are playing, building, creating, thinking independently. Once they've finished building, they engage in a conversation with the facilitators or the assessors. And the conversations are really centered around their thinking process on how did you build this? What did you build this? So we're not really asking them questions about how well they were able to do something. It's
Right.
just more of a reflective conversation.
Right.
And as students engage in this sort of chit chat, the answers and observations are recorded and evaluated against the rubric that we'll show you next. Okay. So this is an actual real assessment. Yeah, it's what we did for our third graders. The brief that we gave them was use 15 blocks to make a vehicle for human beings that can travel on both air and water. We spoke about measurable indicators. So in this case, the indicator was, is the child able to create a new idea or solution for a given problem or challenge? So all children get the same standardized activity, the same standardized set of material, which is 15 blocks. The questions, so children get about 10 minutes to build the vehicle that they want. And then as each child finishes, they come and talk to us. So the questions, if you notice, are also, can you show me a vehicle and tell me how it works in both air and water? So really trying to understand, it's a set of blocks, but trying to understand what has gone into building that vehicle in that particular way. What are the kinds of knowledge, what are the kinds of thought processes that the child has brought into building that vehicle? And children have actually left us in awe of the kind of imagination that they have shown us. As the child speaks, we're not, there's no conversation of right, wrong, sahi, galat. While the child is speaking and talking about the process, we're looking at the vehicle to see if the child is able to create a solution with the given criteria. We're saying how well the child was able to articulate, if the vehicle goes through air and water, and then recognizing that there might be children who might easily be able to come up with an idea, to just see if we can push it a bit further, asking them to come up with yet another idea on the spot. And that's an additional question that we ask children who sort of move through the rubric. There's been a lot of consideration of what it is that children can do at different ages. So our assessments of first and second graders are very, very tactile, very, very, very focused on sensory knowledge, very focused on colors, shapes, comparing, sorting. For third to fifth graders, we've tried to, talk about a lot of creativity and imagination. So building vehicles, building bridges, building structures, forms, that kind of thing. And then for the older 6th to 7th and 8th graders, we've actually tried to bring in a little bit of real world problem solving. So you'll notice that even with play, the assessment is very, very developmentally appropriate. Okay. So I'm sure these are things that we all run through when we're making assessments, and we're all educators here. I think alignment to indicators, is it observable? We have a question there.
How do you record? Geeta asks, how do we record their responses? Is it verbatim or recorded?
So as children speak, we are recording them on a diagnostic tool that we have, and it automatically maps their response to the rubric on the system. So we all know good assessments do this. I'm sure all of us have ensured that every assessment we build is observable, developmentally appropriate, scaffolded. But what happens when you bring play into your assessment? What does it do?
I don't know. Let's see.
Suddenly, the moment you bring play into your assessments, and we've seen this, and honestly, as someone who has worked and built these assessments, I come from a curriculum dev background, and I'm used to building assessments that are, structured, that are traditional. But designing this assessment was a completely different experience, because suddenly we're looking at a lot of scope for independent thinking. We're looking at children exploring, tinkering around with the blocks until the very last minute, figuring out what else they can add to their idea. And what's interesting is that this stayed within the framework of an assessment, in the sense that the questions were standardized, the material was standardized,
Right.
The instructions were standardized but open-ended. So while all children were given the same resources, measured against the same indicator, what they actually produce, the student response, I don't think any of the vehicles that students had built look the same in any of the classrooms.
Right. And I think one more interesting thing was that, a lot of assessments look at how much children have learned. but play assessments go into the application bit as well, right?
How are they able to use their skills?
Yeah.
And also, how are they thinking? Like the kind of thought processes that emerged when we were asking, students of how they went about building. We could see a lot of STEM, a lot of language, a lot of vocabulary really being brought into the picture.
Right.
Things that we would not really look at. Also, just the fact that everyone said assessments make you feel stressed, anxious, worried, competitive, judged, unsafe. Students were playing. It looked like they were playing, and we'll show you a video of this. Just how would you feel if someone came and gave you blocks to play with? And would you feel like it was an assessment? Is really, what I want, is the question I want to throw out at this point. Would you think it was an assessment if you were asked to play with blocks, not given very, very, very prescriptive instructions? And so while it does wonders for students, as educators, I think the merit of play-based assessments is that it really gives you these fascinating insights into how children think. Like no two children will think the same way,
right,
even though they have access to the same knowledge. And this is just a glimpse of the bridge building activity. They were asked to build bridges with straws, and the bridge had to bear the weight of a certain object. What was really interesting for us was that even when we walked in with these assessments, giving children the choice to build anything that they could, the most common questions that came to us were, kya banana hai? What do I build? How should I build it?
Yeah.
What block should I use? Can I use this block here? Can you tell me how to build it? And that really got us thinking how the culture of, just following instructions, following one-sided instructions. Is there enough that we're doing to bring in individuality, to give children the space to think independently? And children took some time to settle in with the idea that they could do whatever they want with these 15 blocks. They could build whatever they wanted. The vehicle could look however they wanted it to be. And that was one of our biggest learnings, that the kind of choice and agency we saw emerging out of these activities.
Right. That speaks to how much play can play a role in changing mindsets as well, right?
True.
Yeah. We have another question. How do you use data from these assessments towards instructions, program inputs? For example, what input would teachers give to progress a student from immersion to enhanced in problem solving? Right. So, you want to take this?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So, for the context of these programs, Rakshima, we've used these inputs from the data from these assessments to prioritize how our programs look on field with every year. What are the course corrections, or how do we balance, how do we balance what skills and indicators we're focusing on, as well as what are the kind of activities or play materials that are working. We hope eventually to be able to, like you said, use this data to give teachers inputs on what more they can do. At present, we are using it primarily for the focus, for the aim of strengthening our programs and strengthening the way we facilitate play. But yeah, your questions. Thank you. The next learning. Open-ended instructions. When we made this assessment, Aditya, we were talking about blocks, build a vehicle, but the extent to which we stopped meddling. We just said build a vehicle. We did not, it could be a helicopter, it could be a boat, a scooter, it could be whatever. It could be a scooter with a fan for all I care.
A spaceship.
Yeah, a spaceship. And that kind of open-endedness, we'll play this video and you'll see what we mean. I don't think any bench had vehicles that looked identical. And this is actual footage captured from our assessments. Like you can see how engaged the children are. I don't think any child looks like they're anticipating an exam.
Let's play it again.
Yeah. This is also a reflection of the way that, we've designed our play sessions.
Okay.
Yeah. So the kind of diverse thought processes that we saw, right? Some child is talking about making a vehicle that's light enough that it floats. Some child is talking about strengthening their bridge with additional smaller straws so that it can bear weight. Some child is talking about, hey, I just want my bridge to look pretty. Yeah. And that's really telling you so much about what of the external world the children are able to bring into their thought processes. Yes. Also, first thing first, I don't think this looks like an assessment.
No, it doesn't.
But this is actually, again, from our assessments. This is just that stage where we've handed out materials and children are just realizing that, oh, we're just playing. And, we intended for this to be a student level assessment. And yet, the kind of curiosity, the kind of collaboration, the kind of, we saw students holding up materials, rotating them every way to figure out what fits where, what else can I do, what is she doing. We just saw students giving each other feedback.
Right.
On, Ari, why don't you do this to your boat? Why don't you do this? Aise banega to float karega. And we didn't give them these instructions. We didn't say, hey, we didn't make a rule about, we collaborate, we do teamwork. It just happened. And that's going back again and again to what play is really all about. The fact that play will just optimize these things. You put children in a room, give them good play experiences, and they will collaborate. They will figure out a way to work with each other. They will figure out a way to explore a solution. So it's really about honing these skills through play.
Right. We have a question, I think. Any learnings on how was teachers' response to this, since they already have a rigid CCE pattern which we know can't be replaced? And any learnings on how this can be scaled up? So right now this was limited to our programs and our facilitators doing the assessments, right? So the teachers were not using this as a replacement for the regular assessments that they do. This was assessing the impact of our programs. But that being said, we definitely think that assessments, play-based assessments like we discussed earlier, can extend to regular assessments as well.
Yeah. So also, just to add to what Aditya said, one of the reasons we're doing this masterclass is also that, right? We've come from the space of designing play-based assessments for the purpose of life skills programs. But if this sparks or inspires educators to find a way to do this in the CCE pattern or in the context of your academic teaching learning practices, I think half the battle is won, because you're already reimagining classroom practices through play.
Right.
So Urvashi, this is at present this is a bit of both.
Yeah.
We have a baseline and endline assessment where we test for all indicators, but also every play session has specific indicators for which children are observed.
Right. Somebody drawing.
Yes, looks like we've got a playful canvas.
Yeah.
Okay. Which brings us to this important question. Have you done something like this? When you were hearing us talk about play, did it take you back to a time that made you say, hey, I've actually done this in my context, in my classroom, in my workplace? Anyone who'd like to share?
Yeah. Okay, we have another question. Is it a standardized assessment? It's standardized to each grade level. So it's again like for each grade, we have a separate different kinds of activities for different indicators again.
Yeah.
So
it's also standardized. Yeah, it's also standardized in the sense that it's all the assessments are built against a framework, a competency framework, a curricular framework that we've developed for our play-based programs. So whatever the assessment activity or the questions are, they're all mapped to standardized indicators and competencies.
Right. Like
but open-ended, but joyful, but playful.
Yeah. Okay, we would really like to hear if any of you have used play to assess something, either knowingly or unknowingly. Would love to hear your experiences. Would raise your hands if you want to speak. Okay, Yamini has raised her hand. Yamini, I've asked to unmute.
Yeah,
Yes.
hi.
Hi.
I remember last year I was actually volunteering in a rural school in Bihar, and we were given this task to perform a play on education and for the village, and we wanted the kids to uh, do it. So what we did was we wrote the play. We means my team and I. We wrote a play, and to see who can do which role, we conducted a couple of activities where we did some action play and all, and so that we can understand which student is able to say the like act. So then, and after those activity, we decided which student to give which role.
Okay, very interesting. That's a very unusual context, right? To use.
It's like a play-based assessment using role play. I mean, if I get that right.
Yeah, something like
Very
that.
interesting.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Would anyone else like to share?
Yes.
Yes, Geeta.
Geeta's raising her hand.
You unmute yourself, please.
So we have Jodo blogs. Those are some teaching learning materials, wherein we use these to see whether the child has understood concepts. So for example, we ask them to make staircases going up or coming down for grade 1. And that's, we assess whether they are able to make that staircase or not. And that tells us whether they've understood the concept of ascending or descending or not. Similarly, in English, we use things like word mazes and crossword, etc., to assess grammar also sometimes, or just plain vocabulary also. So these are some things that we do.
Great. Thank you so
Thanks.
much. Okay, we have a question. Shweta asks, what are your thoughts on using the outdoor play environment as a way to conduct play-based assessments? That's a very interesting question. And there is a lot of work happening around this, around the world. We don't yet work in the outdoor play environment, but it's always interesting to see what others are doing. And yeah, definitely you can use the outdoor play environment. I feel like in Finland, is it they have these preschools that are completely outdoor, even when it snows or whatever. There are kids with their teacher in a forested environment, and they learn so much, not just like they play with leaves, twigs, whatever. They learn about the environment, they learn about cycles in nature, they learn about weather, they so many things. So
I think to answer that question also, going back to the slide we showed on what is play, right? Because play is so flexible. And I think our work is also very rooted in this idea that anything can become play. And by that extension, if you do it consciously, if you do it mindfully, we actually have an approach called conscious play. If you do it consciously, mindfully, you can turn anything into play. And I think a fair part of that play can also then double up as an assessment, as a facilitation tool. So yeah, if you have tire swings in your backyard, if you have a cement footpath that you can draw on, you can definitely hopscotch.
yeah.
You could turn that into an outdoor play-based assessment.
Yeah.
And that's really the beauty of play, actually.
Yes. Amazing. We have Banishwar Singh raising their hand. Banishwar,
Just on something, I work with Pratham Education Foundation, and we have been using something very similar to play-based assessments here for quite some years now. And I'll just give an example on a few items or a few tasks, which fall into the category of play, but again can be used by teachers, to assess a child on certain competencies, and especially in early childhood education. So
right.
one very interesting task that we tend to do in schools and in Anganwadis is we give coloring sheets to every child in the classroom, and we narrate a story on it, and we ask the children to, based on that story, it's a very short scenario of 3-4 lines, and each child is expected to scribble something based on that story, and then we collect it, and then there are certain parameters upon which you can review those sheets. It could be stroke of directions, how many number of colors have you used, if there are any spots left. Let's say if I give you a hut, something on those lines. So very, very interesting and relatable work that you guys have presented.
That's interesting. So it's like an assessment of emergent writing. Emergent writing, also comprehension. And I think it follows the same principles of having a standardized set of indicators while still leaving open-endedness.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
Right. That's great.
Anyone else? Oh yes, we have someone with a comment here. I can hear myself, so I think somebody is.
Yeah.
No? Okay, fine. Right. Indu says, yes, I've been part of a team that designed teaching and learning materials for children. Play has been a primary focus throughout the process. One instance was a cube-shaped puzzle.
Note every.
Yeah. Yes. Right. I think now my voice wouldn't be echoing. Right. It had a okay. So one instance was a cube-shaped puzzle. It had a small hole at one end, and students had to fit a given set of cubes into the box. Children tried out multiple methods and explored through it. Another instance was a digital game which teachers were trained to use. One such game was something as simple as dividing up a set of balls into different bowls. Children were required to come up front and do it while the teacher asks prompting questions. Great, that's quite interesting. I guess like a lot of I mean, with so many digital games coming up, there is a lot of scope for using those as well for play-based assessments.
This is an interesting question, and I think we'll probably take one question and then move to the next segment.
Right.
The difference between play-based and activity-based learning. Again, the way I would answer it is that all play-based learning has an activity, but all activity-based learning may not necessarily have play.
Right.
Because if, you could say, I'm going to give children blocks and ask them to count, and just, it's an activity for sure. But if you go back to the principles of play that we, just spoke about in the masterclass, is there play? I think that's also what we've been trying to do through our conversations with teachers, where think about whether your assessment is actually place-centric. Like, does it uphold the open-endedness, the joyfulness, the iterativeness? Does it leave room for independent thought? Does it leave room for every individual child's thought process to emerge? If these boxes tick yes, then it is a play-based assessment. If not, if you're just using play materials, but your activity is very prescribed, if it's close-ended, then it is not play-based learning, is the way we would answer it.
Right. Malvika says they use play-based assessments too. They use play-based assessments to assess the developmental milestones using age-appropriate free play, child-led for the child. Yeah, that's great. I mean, I guess free play is a great tool to assess developmental milestones, right? I mean, you can see so many things right from comprehension, collaboration, negotiation, so many things happening.
It's interesting because you're getting to see knowledge, behavior, everything in the same place.
In the same place.
I think what becomes very important, and yes, for free play and other activities, is knowing what you want to assess, right? If you're observing children doing pretend play, if the focus of your assessment is their ability, is their vocabulary for a particular theme, then those are the indicators that you should be quietly marking off. But if you want to look at pretend play for, say, creativity and imagination, then it's going to need a completely different set of indicators. Yes, I think
require
what you're
multiple.
saying. Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. There's this teacher in China called, and she's developed this thing called Angie Play, which is a lot of free play outdoors. And the assessments in that are purely observation based. And they talk a lot about how different kinds of observations can tell you different things, and also how teachers could cultivate these observation skills to assess specific things.
I think
challenges.
Yes.
Challenges in the approach. Yes, there are few.
I think a lot of eyebrows go up when you say it's play and we're assessing play through play. But more importantly, I think if this were to be implemented at scale, somebody brought up a point about teachers and mindset change. How would you get teachers to do this? So the more I think in order to be able to assess through play, you need to have a play-based lens. You need to understand play. You need to believe in what play does. Because it needs that kind of patience. It needs that kind of time for you to observe children and actually go out looking for those things. So that's one challenge. I think a lot of play or access to play, even in classrooms, not just assessments, is largely limited by mindsets.
Mindsets, yes.
So scalability, I think, would become if you got enough teachers who were willing to do this. If you were able to build capacities in teachers, you'll be able to do this.
Yeah. We have Shaunak asking, can we use these methods to assess or finding the unique skills of the mentally disabled children? Yes.
I think it would need a different kind of expertise.
Yeah, you would need someone with
Yes.
experience with mental illness.
Very inclusive.
Yeah.
But I don't think we would want to say, how, because I don't think that's really our scope right now. But having said that, play as a domain definitely has the room to be turned into a tool for specific contexts.
Right. There are lots of therapists using play to assess things with children, So you can look into that.
Should we move ahead?
Yeah.
We have an aquatic educator who used motor skills and did a race in the pool where the kids were also using a sheet with idioms as a. This is insane.
Yeah.
Anjali, this is a great idea.
Nice.
Okay. So we're going to move on. We might overshoot by about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Because it looks like everybody's brains are now thinking about
Play.
How to play and how to assess through play. That's great.
Okay, so I think now it's time for us to really think about how we can play with the assessments, right? So to do this, we are going to dive into our childhoods and take help from our childhood selves. So think about what you played as a child. Just take maybe a minute to travel back in time and think about, okay, what was it that I played? What was it that I liked to play? For me, it was, I think, a lot of time spent running around outdoors playing things like chor police, lagori, and those kind of things.
Nice.
Yaman, he says puzzles, great.
And now
Through painting with colors, great.
I think, okay, now that you've thought about what you played as a child, there is another question coming up.
What could you assess through those play experiences? Like for me, I like playing chor police. So what could I assess through chor police? That's a question for myself. You can ask yourself that question. Think about what you could assess through your favorite childhood play experiences.
We can actually take 2 or 3 minutes to think about this.
Yeah.
What did you play as a child? And what could now that you've been an educator, now that we've spoken about assessing through play, what could you use that experience, that game, to assess? And let's make sure that we pay some attention to the points on the right side. Right? So if you're thinking about an assessment through chor police, it needs to have some scope for independent thinking. It needs to have exploration. It can't just be chor kaun hota hai, police kaun hota hai.
Right.
Can't be that.
Can't be that.
What do you assess through chor police?
So you could assess how everyone plans and tries
strategy.
to strategies. Or even a negotiation, right? Like you are constantly making up rules during play and trying to negotiate on whether they are valid or not. So
I was thinking
collective decision making.
I was thinking lagori or pittu, played that a lot as a child, and just thinking about eye-hand coordination, thinking about, hey, do I stack my lagori with the smaller pieces at the bottom or the bigger ones at the bottom? Because that's telling me about shapes and spatial awareness. Strategizing, teamwork, collaborating, resilience.
Being creative, yes.
Okay. So how we'd request you all to share your responses is if you could tell us the name of the play experience.
Yeah.
And what you would use it to assess. So like Aditya said, Pithu would also teach being alert.
Mm.
So like Aditya said, Chorpul is for strategy, for directions, for planning. I said Pithu for estimation, eye-hand coordination. What else could you assess through these experiences while keeping it a great assessment?
If you would like to talk, please raise your hand so we can ask you to unmute and
But we'd like you all to give this some thought.
Yeah. Hide and seek for spatial awareness, gross motor skills, critical thinking, definitely. Social skills, waiting for your turn, yes. Great answers right there. Anyone else?
Monopoly, to be independent and to negotiate. Yeah.
Wow.
Also
Yeah.
decision making, right? Like
Yeah.
you could totally use a game of Monopoly to assess students' decision making abilities.
Memory, remembering who was caught first in hide and seek. Yeah, definitely.
Business, yes, plan what she needs to buy. 6-year-olds showing decision making and strategic thinking. We don't usually think of these things when we're looking at play, but that's what it comes down to.
Geeta says she played a game called Sakli.
Yes.
It needed us to work in a team. Yeah, Sakli was such a fun game, cooperation.
So much patience.
Yeah.
Everyone else didn't run as fast like the
Yes.
other people.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Again, empathy.
Taking perspective, letting the younger ones go before the older ones. Yeah, right?
Loving the responses. Yeah, we have
Dog in the bone for strategy. Again, great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Charles.
So clearly, right? Like the moment we're able to put together the lens of play and assessments, we all get thinking about
Right.
what we can assess. I think more, and while we knew that, we've seen this happen in workshops, we've seen this happen in other sort of classes and capacity building trainings, where we wanted to come in with was that the bit on great assessments, the bit you see on the right hand side. These are the things that it takes to make play-based assessments effective. This is what keeps it play while still being an assessment. So while, I think all of us now go back to our contexts and think about what game, what activity, what play can be used for what. These are things that it would be nice to keep in mind as a checklist of sorts.
Yes, we'll love to see all of you, maybe some of you, trying to use play to assess whatever it is that you want to assess through your work.
Yeah. Okay, so we have about 5 minutes. This brings us pretty much to the end of our
session,
class that we had planned. But if you have any questions, we can take some of them.
Yeah. Questions, comments, anything that you would like to assess with play, open to all of those.
Yes. Any thoughts after this masterclass? Any ideas?
Thank you so much, Neeta. Ketki has raised her hand. Yes, Ketki.
Hi everyone. Hi Aditya.
Hi.
And sorry, I joined a little late, so I missed your.
Right. That's Trupti.
Trupti. Hi Trupti. Okay. So we also do a lot of play-based assessments with the schools we engage with. However, we face challenges when we have to assess personal, social, and emotional development, especially emotional development. So do you have anything on that, and any experiences that you can share? Thank you.
With social and emotional development.
Yeah. So we're as like after building our programs for life skills, we are actually now focusing on social emotional skills as well. It's the idea again, we're still exploring, we're still finding out, we're still defining what the scope of social emotional awareness with regard to play is. Because there is social emotional skills, social emotional awareness, and then there is a little bit further away, there is therapy, there is, mental health and mental well-being. So to define the scope or the framework of what you want to intervene in through play, that is the first sort of, I think, step. And from there, because then it would sort of dictate the direction it goes into. But on an everyday basis, if you want to look at behavioral social emotional awareness, I think just knowing, if you want to say, I want to assess empathy, what does empathy look like for you? How do you want to define empathy in the context of your class? How does empathy look for a first grader versus a third grader? Knowing those indicators, sometimes you might not even need a specialized activity. You could simply look at children doing free play at the beginning of class and have those indicators in front of you and to see if the frequency of students displaying empathy has increased. So, it's also plays also got that advantage that while there is no end to play experiences that you can use to assess things. Sometimes just letting children play in itself and having your indicators clear will help you.
Great.
Right.
Thank you. That's helpful.
You're welcome. We have several questions about how can play be used to assess older children who are learning complex topics.
Yeah, I think what we can do, given that we're at the end of this, we'll drop in, an email ID, and if you have questions on play, or if you want to share how you're using play-based practices, play integrated classrooms, we'd love to hear about that.
Yeah.
So we'll just drop we'll drop an email ID. Feel free to write to us. And thank you so much, everyone, for engaging and for participating and for being so playful for the last hour.
Okay. All right, over to Hita. We are done with our session.
Yes, I'm going to stop sharing. Yeah. Yes.
Thank you, Tripti. Thank you, Aditya. Fantastic session. The engagement was stellar. The audience was glued and playing all through this last hour. Thank you, everyone, for joining us at this time in the evening and really bringing your playful selves fully engaged. And it gives me a lot of hope to see a lot more play-based learning and assessments happening. I think something that spoke very clearly to me was it's really the lens with which you assess that makes the biggest difference. If you are looking to assess with the lens of play, you most definitely can. I think even as a non-educator, I was just thinking about all the games that I've, played, the games that I see, or, the playfulness with which I see my child. Just seeing all of that and then, being able to see growth and see learning, irrespective of whether it is an assessment that needs to be recorded or not. I mean, we can see growth and learning happen through play. So thank you so much for this fabulous session. If you're up for it, please do send the participants of this webinar any materials. I'll share with you everyone's details so you can, connect with everybody. And if anybody has any questions, Aditya has put down an email ID that you can write to. So thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you so much,
Thank you
Hita.
so much, Hita and Varun, for this.
Yeah.
It was a great experience. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thanks, Tripti. Thanks, Aditya.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.